complete these two in this session, and then remaining parts will continue in the next session. Okay, so what is a prepayment invoice? Okay, so as the name itself, prepayment, we are paying in advance. So let us assume like you pay something in advance to the vendor. So vendor has obviously in a large organization where there is a very big contract, obviously vendors expects you to pay something in advance. So before he actually procures the goods for him and start manufacturing those or whatever it is, start purchasing and then manufacture or whatever it and then send it to you. So he'll expect you to pay something in advance. So that is called prepayment, paying in advance. So you create or you record that as a prepayment invoice in your AP module. So how we can do that? And once the advance is say, take an example, say you have entered into a contract to purchase say 100,000 rupees worth of goods from a particular vendor, and out of 100,000 worth of goods he says that he asks you to pay you in advance for say 10,000 rupees. So you create a prepayment invoice for 10,000 rupees, and once he delivers the goods, say maybe after a month or two, you get an invoice copy from the vendor for 100,000 rupees. So for that 100,000 rupees you apply this prepayment of 10,000 rupees. Then that is you are applying a 10,000 advance, and then you will make a payment of remaining 90,000. It's a simple terms, like you already paid an advance of 10,000 rupees. You then obviously next you need to pay only remaining 90,000. So how we can do that? Invoice, entry, invoices. So prepayment is the another invoice type. Prepayment. Select the vendor as ABC vendor. Site ABC Ahmedabad, and invoice date is 24th of September, and could be any number for 10,000 rupees. Okay, and click on lines, enter 10,000, and once you click on distributions, an account is automatically defaulted here. Can somebody tell me from where exactly this account is defaulted? Supplier side, exactly. So the prepayment, which is nothing but prepaid expenses, is defaulted from supplier side, and under supplier side it has defaulted from the financial option. So if you make some changes to the supplier side, that will be defaulted here. Okay, so generally you do not make a changes to the account, it will be defaulted from the supplier side. Okay, save this. Okay, now the status, you can see the status is never, it's not never validated, it is unvalidated. So for prepayment there are different statuses. So for a standard invoice, the first status is never validated and then validated, and if you make some changes it goes to needs revalidation, and then again you need to validate. But whereas for a prepayment the first status is unvalidated. Okay, now click on actions, validate. Now the next status is, in the case of standard invoice, never validated and then validated, but whereas in the case of prepayment, first is unvalidated and once you validate, the status is unpaid. So that means you are creating a prepayment invoice, but you have not yet made a payment of the advance to the vendor. Now you need to make a advance payment of this particular vendor. Okay, I think I cannot show that particular payment now because we need to complete the bank account setup. So for completing of the bank account setup, there are a couple of other things. So what we'll do is, instead of prepayment, we will proceed with the other topics at least today. Maybe we'll proceed with these credit memos. Okay, so what is credit memo and what is debit memo? So this credit memo and debit memo has got a different significance in AP and AR. So we'll talk only from an AP perspective. Okay, take an example. You You received an invoice from the vendor for say 10,000 rupees or say 100,000 rupees. You received the goods, and then you realized out of 100,000 worth of goods, okay, 10,000 worth of goods is not proper, or they are not in order, or they are broken, or something like that. Okay, for 10,000 worth of goods, you raise a memo and give it to the customer, saying that I don't want to pay you for total 100,000 rupees. I will pay you only for 90,000 rupees. Okay, that is one scenario. The other scenario could be for same 100,000 worth of goods. Okay, your vendor has say raised an invoice for 100,000 worth of goods and given it to you, and then he realized that, oh, I should have not charged 100,000 rupees. I should have actually charged only say 95,000 rupees. Okay, I overcharged him 100,000 rupees. I should not have done that. Okay, or that 100,000 rupees includes some transportation charges. I do not want to pass the transportation charges to my customer. I mean, for vendor we are customer. Am I right?
Yeah.
So he thinks that I should not have charged 100,000 rupees. I should have charged only 95,000 rupees. I have extra charged him for 5,000 rupees. Okay. Then in that particular case, what he can do is, if vendor realizes that he has made a mistake and he should have charged only 95,000, but instead he has charged 100,000 rupees, then he will raise a credit memo and send it to us. So that is what is credit memo. You need to enter the credit memo in the system for minus 5,000 rupees, and then at the end of the day, when you are making a payment, you include this plus this. That is, when you are making a payment, you include 100,000 plus 5,000 minus 5,000. So net impact is you are making a payment of only 95,000 for this vendor. So that is called credit memo. And in this example, if let us assume you realize that the goods are what you call broken and you do not want to make a payment, then you raise a debit memo and you send this particular debit memo copy to the vendor, saying that, boss, you have sent me an invoice of 100,000, but I am not going to pay you for 10,000 rupees because the goods are broken and I don't want to pay you. So more or less both the debit memo and credit memo are same negative terms, but in a business terminology, debit memo is the memo which you have raised and sent it to the vendor, wherein you have realized that the goods are defective and you do not want to make a payment. And credit memo is raised by the vendor. He generated the credit memo and he give to you. But from a technical perspective, both debit memo and credit memo are negative invoice, and both are actually reducing the balance of your invoice. So here you are paying him 90,000, and even here also, let us assume even if make it as a 10,000, even here also the net balance is only 90,000. Does it make sense?
Yeah. So
Yes,
it's
sir.
only so whenever I see a debit memo as a type of an invoice, that means the customer is raising and sending it to the supplier.
No, 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 no. From we are talking from an AP perspective. In AP, when you see a debit memo, so that means we have realized, when you say don't use the word customer. So we is Reliance Communication. Now we are dealing with only vendor. There is nothing called customer here. Okay. Reliance Communication has realized that there is a defective product, and we have raised a debit memo and we have given it to the vendor, saying that, boss, I'm not going to pay you 10,000 rupees. So 10,000 minus 100,000 minus 10,000 is the net balance due, and I'm going to pay you only 90,000. So if you run aging report within AP, we have got an aging reports in AP also similar to that in AR. So when you run an aging report, which will show you the outstanding balance against the vendor, it will show you only 90,000 rupees. So similarly, if the vendor realizes that, oh, he has made a mistake and he should not have charged you 100,000, he should have charged you only 90,000, then he will raise that credit memo for 10,000 and he's going to send it to us. And even there,
Yeah.
the net
So
impact
my
is
point is,
90,000.
yeah, my point is in AP itself, whenever the invoice type is denoted as a debit memo, that means AP clerk itself raised to the respective vendor saying that there is uh, an issue in the
Invoice which the vendor has sent.
total amount. Yeah, correct. Right? If
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
a credit memo, AP clerk can be defined that it's the issue from the vendor itself. So we are creating the type as a credit memo. Is that the only difference?
Yes, that's the only difference. And from a system perspective, both are negative invoices. It do not have any other impact. And these two are different in AR. So I'm talking this only from an AP perspective. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So, Arvind, can we say that credit memo is entered and debit memo is created?
Yes, or generated, kind of. Yes.
Yeah, generated or created. Yeah.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, because credit memo is something we are getting from the vendor, and debit memo is something that we are creating for the vendor.
Yeah. Yeah. Rather, we will not use the word generated. We will say raising, because generated word is
Okay.
basically used in AR. So we'll say yes, raising of a debit memo instead of entering. Okay.
Okay. And entering credit memo and raising debit memo.
Entering credit memo, raising. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So that's with regard to credit memo and debit memo, and how we can raise those credit memo and debit memo. So let us assume okay, do we have any one invoice? Yeah, I think we have one invoice. Yeah, credit memo. ABC vendor, Ahmedabad. Okay, enter the date. Credit memo. So it will be from ABC CM underscore 100, and credit memo is for minus. So I think our original invoice was for some 50,000 or something like that, right? So I'll say credit memo amount is minus 5,000, and then click on match. I don't see any invoice number field here. Check. There's an option to enter the invoice number wherein we can match this. Okay, let me complete the details. Let's see. That's 5,000. Okay, first we'll start with the standalone credit memo. So when you're creating a standalone credit memo without matching it to the invoice, okay. So you're creating for 5,000 rupees, okay, and the account should be, you should exactly actually use the same account whatever is being charged in the original invoice, okay. But changed or deleted by another user. Requery this invoice. Go to distributions. So enter the account whatever is being used in the original invoice. We have used, I think, consulting account. Actions, validate. Okay. Okay. So this is basically just a standalone credit memo. So we have not matched it to the invoice. So we can even just create a standalone credit memo and leave it as is. So when you are making a payment, you generally when you are making a payment, you generally select the both the original invoice, which has got some, I think original invoice was 50,000, okay, and the credit memo of minus 5,000. So the net impact is when you're making a payment, system will allow you to make a payment of only 45,000. And once that is done, the amount paid will be full. Like as far as this invoice, as far as the credit memo is concerned, the total outstanding amount will be zero. Okay, similarly, the same is the case even with the standalone debit memo. And maybe I think in the next class I'll show you how to, instead of creating a standalone debit memo, how to directly create a credit memo against a invoice. Okay, so any other questions for this week's session?
No.
Okay, thanks guys. We will meet next week, and next week I think we should target to complete the AP module. There are a couple of things, but we should do. So basic, the other main important thing is withholding tax, and then we need to go manage banking is creating of the banks, and then we can proceed with the payments. And payments, I'll show you both the quick payment, that is a single payment, as well as the payments through payment batch, and then the standard reports and the period closure. Okay.
Yeah. One thing, Arvind, are you showing any expense invoices?
Expense reports, I think I may not be able to show, because to show you expense report, then we need to do all the entire setups for the expenses module, which I'm not covering in this. Without
Okay.
expenses module,
And
you'll not be able to. Yeah.
okay. And what about the tax related invoices other than withholding? We will
So,
have
so when I'm covering the EB
inclusive
tax,
tax.
when I'm covering EB tax, once the EB tax setups are done, then I'll show you quickly create one AP invoice and one AR invoice.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Thanks, Arun.